Yes, Swamiji.
Okay. But you'll have to change the screen, isn't it?
What?
You have not focused on me. Ah, okay. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Sada Shiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Parampara. In our last session, we had done to Shlok 32. Yash Jnanat Sarva Vijnanam Shrutishu Patipaditam Mridadya Naika Drishtantaihi Tad Brahma Iti Avadharaya. We started the discussion from the 26th shloka. Ye Sakshi Lakshana Bodha Tvam Padartha Sauchyate. So Tvam Padartha, that is thou in thou that art, or thou art that, or Tattvamasi. So this is Tvam Pada. So it is called as Sakshi Lakshana. Sakshi Lakshana Bodha. That consciousness, that is the witness in Jiva. And then Sakshitvam api Bodhrutvam Avikaritayatmanah. This Sakshitvam, this witnesshood, is also nothing but the pure self alone, the illuminating factor, the pure consciousness. Sakshitvam Bodhrutvam and Avikari Tayatmanah, that which is not subject to any change or modification. So this is the Tvam-pada, that is thou. The Tvam-pada Shodhanam is going on. What is the indicative meaning of the Tvam-pada, thou, in Tattvamasi? Then we saw that Deha, Indriya, Mana, Prana, Ahankritibhya Vilakshana. Projita Shesha Shad Bhava Vikaraha Tvam Padavidaha. So it is Vilakshanaha. This is Vilakshana means distinct from. Distinct from what? Distinct from Deha, Indriya, Mana, Prana, Aham. Aham, that is ego. It is totally distinct from all these. And whereas all these are subject to, or all the material things are subject to sixfold modification. What are the sixfold modification? That is the birth, existence, growth, decay, disease, death. These are the sixfold modifications where all the material thing, the material world undergoes. So, Projita Shesha Shadbhavaha, that is, this thing is Vilakshana, distinct from body, Deha, Indriya, Mana, Prana, etc. And the ego also. And then it is free from this sixfold qualification, sixfold modification. That dosha is not there. And then that is Vikaritvaha, Vikarataha, Padabhidaha. So it is free from this modification, and that to be understood as Tvam-pada, Tvam-padabhidaha. Vikaraha, Tvam-padabhidaha. So free from this modification. So it is other than all that, and everything in material world is subject to modification. This is not subject to modification. Then Tvamartham evam nishchityam tadartham chintayet punah atad vyavritti rupena sakshat vidimukhena. So now, having ascertained what this tvam pada is, thou, that thou art, in that, what this tvam pada is. Having ascertained that, now we'll go on to the tat pada, that. Now, by two methods, atad vyavritti rupena sakshat vidimukhena. Vyavritti rupena means by the negation, method of negation, and sakshat vidimukhena, that is through the scriptural statements. So these two ways it will be determined, the tatpada. Now, the first way was in the shlok 29 and 30. These two shlokas, these two methods were given. Vyavritti rupena, that is by negation and by assertion. In 29 shloka, it is by negation, and then comes the assertion. Nirasta ashesha sansara dosha astuladi lakshana adrushatvadi gunaka parakruta tamomala. Now here is in the method of negation. So nirasta ashesha sansara dosha. Now our limited mind intellect equipment has limitation in its understanding, in knowing, in comprehending things. Limitation is there. So whatever our mind intellect can understand, know, or comprehend, then it is stated that entity, that infinite, is beyond that. It is other than that. So here, nirasta ashesha sansara dosha, that means it is absolutely free from sansara dosha. And what is the sansara dosha? Sansara dosha is the sense of otherness, the sense of duality, that is, and all the limitations of space, time, object, and causation. So these are the sansara dosha. So this we can very well understand. The sense of otherness we can understand, the duality we can understand, limitations of time, space, causation, and objects we can understand. These things can be understood by our limited mind and intellect. So then that infinite reality is indicated as other than that. So where these are absent, we have not known a state where there is an absence of these, the sansara dosha. Every day we deal with the sansara dosha only, and we do not know its absence. So our limited mind cannot comprehend that. So here it is said it is other than that, sansara dosha. And then we know, now here it is said astuladi lakshana. So we know what is gross, what is subtle, that we know. So then what is that infinite reality? That which is other than gross and subtle. So in the negation, adrushatvadi gunakaha, the quality of that which cannot be perceived by the senses, mind, or intellect, it cannot be perceived by that. So there is a limitation what our senses can perceive. So this is beyond that. It cannot be perceived. So imperceptible to the limited mind intellect equipment, imperceptible to the sense organs. So that which cannot be seen or heard or smelt or tasted or touched. So understand that to be that Brahman. Parakruta tamomala. That absolute truth. Parakruta tamomala. Parakruta tamomala. Tamoguna is related to ignorance or darkness. So where it is beyond or totally free from the darkness of ignorance. Parakruta tamomala. Tamoguna, or ignorance, is not there. It is pure knowledge. So now that was in the language of negation. In the next shloka, it was given in the language of assertion. Now here also it is beyond the comprehension of our mind. Nirasta atishayanandaha satya prajnana vigraha satta swalakshanaha purnaha param atmeti giyate. So here nirasta atishayananda. Now this also we cannot comprehend with our mind intellect equipment what Ananda, what Sukha have we experienced and we can comprehend. We can understand only that Sukha which we echo from this world in the form of Shabda Sparsha Rupa Rasa Gandha, that is, through the objects that we can hear or we can touch, we can taste, we can smell, and so on, or we can see the colors and forms. That only we can understand. So the sukha, the joy, pleasure, or happiness derived from object in these 5 different ways. That is only we can understand. And then in our experience, we know it very well, they are all limited. They are all limited and they are momentary, fleeting. For a few seconds, few minutes, an hour or two, it will be there, or the forum will be there for a day or two, and then we are back to square one. So that is understood. Now here it is said that nirasta atishayananda. So here nirasta means that there is no astama there. So it is eternal. And atishayananda, the infinite bliss. So infinite bliss we do not know. And eternity also, eternal bliss we do not know. The sukha that we have experienced so far is all momentary and fleeting. So that sukha, that ananda, that swarupa is beyond what we can comprehend or understand, or what we have experienced so far. So nirasta atishayananda satya prajnana vigraha. Satya prajnana, that is the pure consciousness, satya prajnana vigraha, where there is no thought process. Now, consciousness we understand, consciousness, conscious of being something, or conscious of something rather, conscious of some objects, conscious of presence of someone, conscious of some sound, something like that. So we are conscious of something, or conscious of thoughts and things like that. But we have never understood, and whenever we have seen that something or else is going on, either some thought flow is there, or flow of the emotions or feelings are there, or awareness of some object is there, or person is there, somebody, the being is there. So there is that. Now here, Satya Prajnana Vigraha, where it is, consciousness is there, but it is thought-free, where there are no thoughts. So consciousness is there, but it is objectless. It is not conscious of some object, aware of some thoughts or aware of some object. No. So that awareness is not there. It is just consciousness, which is thought-free, which is objectless, and that is pure bliss, pure ananda. So Satya Prajnana Vigraha, Satta Swalakshana Purna. Swalakshana. Swalakshana is one of the lakshanas. Is Satta. Satta is pure existence. We have seen that things exist for some time and then they cease to exist after that. That we are continuously seeing. But the swarupa of this is existence. So existence pure. It never goes out of existence. Satta Swalakshana, and then Purna. Purna also we have seen. Purna is that which is infinite, which is complete, and only infinite can be that, Purna. And that which is infinite, Purna, is also all pervading. So only a limited thing doesn't pervade, it is limited to. Now, as a Jivatma, thoroughly identified with the body, we are limited to this body only, not beyond that. So Purna. So now we understand the limitations of the body. Now here it is indicated as all pervading. So this is what we have understood, but all pervading we cannot comprehend, we cannot understand. So that is indicated as all pervading, which is everywhere at all times. Paramatmeti Giyate. So this is the supreme being, or supreme self, pure self. Now in these two shlokas, 29th and 30th shloka, the same, the Tatpada, the absolute truth, was indicated by negation and assertion. Actually, these words that are given, that is only an indicative one, because that which is beyond words cannot be put into words. It is only to help an ignorant person to have some kind of idea about it. Otherwise, that cannot be put into words. Whatever words we use will be limited only. And It may indicate, it may just show some pointers, but that is not the description of that absolute truth. It's Tatpada. It is not the description. One has to understand that. But they are used only as indications. Then this 29th and 30th shloka gives the indicative meaning or the lakshartha of Tatpada. Then we saw Sarvajnatvam Pareshatvam Tatha Sampurna Shaktita Vedai Samartyate Yasya Tad Brahma iti Avadharaye. Now here in this shloka, Brahman is declared as the Nimitta Karana. So with the Upadhi of Maya or the Upadan Karana also, in the next 5 verses, this Brahman is shown as the Upadan Karana of this entire Srishti of the creation. So here, who is Sarvajnata Pareshatva Tatha Sampurna Shaktita? This is Ishvara now. That same Brahman as Ishvara. He is the all-knowing, the Supreme Lord, and omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. So that Ishvara is the one who is the creator of this world with the help of Maya Shakti. So that Brahman with the conditioning of Maya Shakti is called as Ishvara. And then that Ishvara is the Nimitta Karana of this entire existence. Now, having said that, in the 32nd shloka it was said, Yajnanat sarva vijnanam shrutishu patipaditam murdadye naika drishtantehi tad brahma iti avadharaya. So having known that everything is known, then there is nothing to be known. So the example that was taken up was, if we understand the swarupa of the cause of all the effects, then if we know all the effects, then after that, then everything is known. If we know mud very well, then the effects of this mud, that is all the forms arising out of that mud, is known. Because all the pots, different sizes, shapes and functions and all that thing, that will be known. But when the effect, the cause of the effect, the pot is the effect, the cause is the mud. If mud is known, all the forms arising out of that mud will be known. Knowing the goldsmith, we cannot know the ornaments. But knowing the gold, we can know the ornaments. Because without gold, those ornaments cannot exist. Gold itself doesn't have any particular shape or form, but it can take any form. So all forms arising out of gold will be known if gold is known, the cause of all the ornaments. So up to here we are done in our last session. Today we will begin a new session. Shlok 33. Yadanantyam pratijñāya Shrutis tat siddhaye jagav tat karyatvam prapanchasya tad brahmetyavadharaya yad anantyam pratijñāya Shruti tat siddhaye jagav tat karyatvam prapanchasya tad brahma iti avadharaya. Now, even the Shruti, to prove the manner of saying that the absolute truth is beyond any limitations, is infinite, yet anantyam, anantyam, limitless, infinite, to prove that, now here, prapanchasya, it is saying that the prapanchasya, the world of names and forms, tat karyam, it is the effect of that absolute truth, the world of names and forms, this prapancha, it is the effect of that. So this is for the purpose of showing that that absolute truth is infinite, beyond any limitations. Now, one has to understand, so if all the world of names and forms is the effect of that absolute truth, so obviously the cause has to be subtler than the effect. It has to be subtler, it has to be more pervasive, and all that thing, and itself not subject to any particular change. So cause is subtler and more pervasive than the effects. This Ananta Advaita Brahman is the substratum of all the names and forms. But it is not just the substratum of all the names and forms. It also appears as all the names and forms. So, as now all the names and forms is the apparent effect of this absolute truth. Now we have to understand, it is very difficult for us to comprehend from a layman's point of view. How can one entity can be the cause of this entire creation, which comprises of living and non-living both? And the substratum, and when it is said that actually the effects are also that alone. So that is very difficult to comprehend simultaneously. How it can create living and non-living both, or how it can appear as living and non-living both, one cause only. Now, if we have to make a particular thing in relative terms, we need so many ingredients, and then we all put together and something is made out of that. To compose something, to make some object or something like that, or even in cooking also, particular dish, how many things are required, and then we make it. But here, one entity that alone appears as the variety of names and forms in this Ananta Koti Brahmanda. So, how is that possible? It is not easy to comprehend. Now, the thing is that a little bit of help we can take in understanding this. See, as wave appears on the surface of the ocean, millions and millions of waves appear on the surface of the ocean. They are sustained for some time and then they disappear. They arise out of the ocean, remain on the surface for some time and merge back into the ocean. There are different varieties of waves, small waves, large waves, long waves, short waves, tall waves, and so on, slow waves, fast waves. All these things are there. But they are ultimately nothing but water alone that appears as waves. This is one way of understanding. Another way of understanding, we will take the help of science. Now the entire world of names and forms, either they are living or non-living, sentient or insentient. But whether they are living or non-living, all without exception is made up of matter. This we can understand very well. Now, if it is made up of matter, and matter has been broken down into smaller proportions, smaller parts, and then we come to molecules, we come to atoms. This we have of course discussed earlier also. And then further atom is divided into the subatomic particles, that is electrons, protons, and neutrons. And beyond that, further particles like mesons and things like that. So, if you look at if we had a set of glasses, if we wear, and through that we can see these electrons, protons, and neutrons. If we wear that glass and look out in this world, what will we see? Will we see the people, the buildings, the mountain, the tree, the river, or anything like that? No, we will only see electrons, protons, and neutrons in different permutation and combination. In motion, that is all that can be seen. We cannot differentiate what is part of, whether it is a part of any living thing, living being, or an insentient or inert object. We cannot determine. That glasses that can see electrons, protons, and neutrons in different permutation and combination in motion. So that is what it will be seen. So the entire material world is broken down into that subatomic particles. Once we see that, we cannot distinguish which electron, which proton, or which neutron comes from, whether it is living or non-living, or what form it belongs to. No. Everything is common. It is there. A different permutation and combination is there. And beyond that, it is only a homogeneous mass of energy. Beyond the subatomic particles, further we go, it is only a homogeneous mass of energy in motion. And that is exactly what Lord Buddha experienced in his deep state of meditation. He saw his own body as nothing but energy in motion. Now the thing is that these electrons, protons, and neutrons, and then energy in motion is there. So now multiples, billions of varieties of names and forms, they have been broken down into just electrons, protons, and neutrons, whether living and non-living. Now it has further narrowed down to only a homogeneous mass of energy. And now this homogeneous mass of energy is also insentient, and therefore its substratum has to be pure consciousness, on which this homogeneous mass of energy and then the electrons, protons, and neutrons and their permutation and combination. Then further, when we change our vision, when we see through the limited vision, then we see various objects, living and non-living and so on, objects and beings. So as we narrow down, as we make our vision subtler and subtler, then we come down to one ultimate truth or ultimate reality. Same thing can project living and non-living. See, earth is insentient, inert, but from that inert earth comes living plants. Similarly, our body, say living, but from there comes that insentient, inert hair and nails, so we can cut it off, it doesn't trouble us at all. So one cause, one absolute cause, the substratum from which the entire thing is projected out. So only thing is that because of the limitations, we see the variety. As we make our vision subtler and subtler, then the varieties simply disappear. So that from which this samsara of names and forms arise, they are sustained, and that then they disappear. So that has to be understood as Brahman, the absolute truth. Therefore, Adi Shankaracharya ji gave this statement. Everything is Brahman. Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. Brahman is Satya and Jagat Mithya. Jagat Mithya means it is not that it is nothing. Absolutely nothing. Jagat Mithya means absolutely nothing. No. Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. The way it appears to us through the limited medium, that is Mithya. And therefore, further he qualified that those two statements with Sarva Khalu Vidam Brahma. So, Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. Jagat, the way it appears to us is Mithya, illusory. But the entire existence is nothing but Brahma. Because that substratum has to be there. Without that substratum, if the movie finishes, the screen remains. Without the screen, movie can't be seen. So the screen is the substratum on which the movie is projected. So once the projector stops, the movie stops, but the screen is still there. So that is what appears there. So therefore, everything boils down to one tattva, one supreme reality. Now, having said that, in the 34th shloka, Vijijñasya taya yacha Vedanteshu mumukshubhihi samarthete yatnena tad brahmetyavadharaya. Vijijñasa taya yatcha Vedanteshu mumukshubhihi samarthyate atiyatnena tad brahma iti avadharaya. Now, in Vedanta, it is also said that that on which the deep contemplation, the seekers of liberation, mumukshubhihi, seekers of liberation, they go into deep contemplation and get established in that samarthate atiyatnena, with great effort, understand that to be tad brahma iti avadharaya. So ascertain that to be Brahman. Now always the gain is through knowledge alone. Knowledge, pure knowledge, that is thought-free. And this Sat, pure existence, pure knowledge, is ever existing. Now, Mumukshu should contemplate on that, from which the world arises, sustains, and merges back. So, the Mumukshu, the one who is the seeker of truth, he has to continuously contemplate on that. As we have seen so many times, the different examples of from the mud the pot arises, is sustained. When it is broken, it goes back to mud. Gold ornaments come from gold, and when it is melted down, it goes back to gold. It is sustained and then melted down, it goes back to gold. So that contemplation goes on. This comes in Taittiriya Upanishad. So Brahman, here he is shown as Upadan Karana of this entire existence for the purpose of contemplation by the limited human mind. There are different methods of contemplation. Different statements are taken from the scriptures for contemplation. So this is one way of understanding that all the effects arise from the cause, sustained for some time, and then merges back into the cause. Now, having said that, in the 35th shloka, Jivatmana praveshascha niyantrutvam cha tan prati shruyate yasya vedeshu tad brahmetyavadharaya. Jivatmana praveshah cha niyantrutvam cha tan prati shruyate yasya vedeshu tad brahma ityavadharaya. So Jivatmana praveshasya. Now, according to this Taittiriya Upanishad, having created this world, then he identified with, or so to say, entered the created thing and became a creature. So the individualized ego, Jivatma, the individualized ego. Now we have to understand that this entry is only in the form of reflection. This entry is not a physical entry. As it is, the pure self has got no form, no color, no quality or anything like that, attribute, something like that. So this entry is in the form of reflection, abhasa matra, and this entry can happen only where there is a medium of reflection, medium to reflect rather. The other medium of reflection is mind, body, mind, intellect equipment. So where it is a reflector. So this is called as an entry. So Jivatmana praveshasya. So this entry is in the form of this as a reflection. Then, so as the ego, this entity suffers the limitations, the imperfections, the sorrows of the samsara. When thoroughly identified with that, that is what happens. So, for example, the sun is reflected in the water. But if the water is disturbed, the reflection of the sun will keep dancing on the surface of the water. But of course, it doesn't affect the sun. But if the sun identifies with its reflection in the water, then it will think that it is made to dance. It is something like that. So, according to this Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, remaining within the earth and this Panchama Bhuta. So now, Niyantrutva cha tan prati. Niyantrutva cha tan prati means is controller of the jivas. Niyantrutva cha tan prati. So, in the form of the presiding deities or the subtle powers, so it controls the forms in which it has reflected, like that. It controls the forms. So these are the powers that be as per specific laws. Now, the same Brahman, now it has entered this, the created, of created world of names and form, and the same Brahman is the Ishvara also. So the same Brahman, the same absolute truth is Jiva Jagata Ishvara. Jiva Jagata Ishvara is the same Brahman. Now, and we have seen how we can look at the effects and slowly we can resolve it to the cause. And multitudes of names and forms of different objects, different beings, and so on, they can be reduced to the one ultimate cause. So similarly, so this is Jiva Jagata Ishvara is nothing but that absolute truth alone. This is Brahman with Sattva Guni Maya is Ishvara. Brahman with this Rajoguni Maya is Jiva, Jivatma, and Brahman with this Tamoguni Maya is this Jagat. So Jiva Jagata Ishvara. So this Jiva Jagata Ishvara, their existence is together, they arise together and dissolve together. They have no independent existence apart from each other. So Jiva cannot exist alone without the Jagat and Ishvara. Jagat cannot exist alone without Jiva and Ishvara. And Ishvara, if there is no Jagat and there is no Jiva, there is no need of Ishvara also there. So the three arise together, the three dissolve together. Then, having said that, now in the 36th shloka, now this having created, now he has entered in the form of reflection, and not only has entered, but now he is controlling to the presiding deities, the different powers are there, controlling all the functions there. And having done that, now in the 36th shloka, Adi Shankaracharya says, Karmanam phaladaputvam yasyaiva shruyate shrutau jivanam hetu kartutvam tad brahmetyavadharaya. Karmanam phaladaputvam yasya eva shruyate shrutau jivanam hetu kartutvam tad brahma iti avadharaya. Now, karmanam, having entered now, then this jiva will have a karta bhokta bhava. So, karta, and he will be into action. But karta bhava is there, so he will do action. So, karmanam phaladatrutvam. So, that is been heard in the Shruti also. So, who is the giver of the results or the fruits of our action? The results or fruits of our action is the same entity, karmanam phaladatrutvam. So karma siddhanta also we have to understand. So action is done and that action will give result. Why the actions are done? We fall into action. We want to do karma because of desires. Because there is a sense of incompleteness in us. However much we may have anything in this world, we may have unlimited wealth and all the objects of luxuries, comforts and things like everything available, all the objects of enjoyment available to us, yet we will not be fully satisfied or happy because everything has got its own limitations. And therefore, this incompleteness will be there and some desire will be there. So the sense of incompleteness is there, therefore desire to fulfill that. Now, the way we fulfill it, that depends upon the vasana. The type of desire also that arises, that depends upon the vasana. So from the vasana comes the desire, and the desire puts us into action. We do the karma, and depending upon the quality of our karma, the results also accrue. The good or bad karmas, positive or negative karmas will give the results accordingly. And the results or the fruits may not be the same. For the same karma, for different jivas, it may be a different result. It depends upon if the same karma is performed, how it is performed, so there are different factors. A karma is performed, but how that karma is performed, where it is performed, on whom it is performed, when it was performed, and most important, what was the intent behind that karma. That decides the quality of action, and that will decide the result of that action. So, karma everybody performs, but just doing karma is not karma yoga. Karma, when it is done, nishkama karma, selfless action, when it is done, then it becomes karma yoga. Otherwise, we do karma every day, but that is not karma yoga. Karma yoga is selfless action. And then further, kartutva abhiman is selfless action. That is without the ego of doing that action, without the doership notion, which is very difficult. So, same karma done by different people according to different circumstances, and the intent behind that will decide the quality of that action, and the result will occur accordingly. A soldier killing enemy soldiers on the front during the war, and then he is awarded with the bravery award and medals and all that thing. The same soldier, when he comes on vacation home, and then he picks up a fight with his neighbor, and then he pulls out his service revolver and then shoots him down. That is murder. So now killing happened in the village also, he killed, at the border also he killed. But the karma is same of killing. But then the place is different, time is different, circumstances are different, intent is different. There he is a soldier of the country guarding the borders, and it is a war time. He has to protect his country, and he is rewarded with the bravery award for that. But now that he has killed his neighbor in the village, probably he may be hanged also for murder. So action of killing is there, but so many factors go. The same karma will give different results to different people in different circumstances. So they are all dependent on the intent behind that karma. So this karma, these results are also given by the same Brahma in the form of Jagdishwara. The Upadhi of Maya is the Jagdishwara. So Yasya eva shuyate shutam. Then Jivanam hetu kartutvam. So he alone expresses in the mind intellect equipment as the doership notion, as karta bhukta bhava. So he only expresses tad brahma iti avadharai. So he becomes the hetu of the doership. So because of him, now he gives the results of the karma that is done, and he is also hetu of that kartutva bhava also in the jiva. So understand that to be Brahman. So this karma siddhanta has to be understood. Then the karmas are done. Then of course we know the sanchita karma and the prarabdha karma and the agami karma and all that thing. So they are all divided into that. But the important thing is that karma phala data Jagdishwara and karma, the same karma done by different people, need not necessarily yield the same result, because there are other factors to be considered when that karma was done. Now, having said that, now in order to determine the oneness of this self, Atman, and the self everywhere, Brahman, that is Jivatma and the Paramatma, the teacher continues his discourse with the next verse in the Shlok 37. Tattvam padartho nirnitau vakyartoschintyate dhuna tadadmyamatra vakyartah tayoreva padarthayoho. Tattvam padarthau nirnitau vakyartah chintyate adhuna tadatmyam atra vakyartah tayoho eva padarthayu. Now tat and tvam padartha nirnito. Having determined the indicative meaning, lakshartha, finally determined what is tat and what is tvam. Tat tvam padartha nirnito. Vakyarthas chintayet adhuna. So the meaning of this statement has been thought over, discussed thoroughly. So now we will discuss adhuna. Now we will discuss tadatmya matra vakyartha. So now we have to discuss their identity, the meaning of that and thou, tat and tvam has been discussed thoroughly. Now, what is their identity? What is the relationship? What is their identity? Tadatmyam, what is their identity? Atra vakyartha toyoho padarthayoho. So, till here the vachyartha, that is the shabdartha, the word meaning was discussed of this tat and tvam and tat. So it was to show, explained, and to show that they don't stand for Jiva and Ishvara. So that has to be understood. They don't stand for Jiva and Ishvara. Okay, the vachartha or the shabdartha or the word meaning can be understood as Jiva and Ishvara, Tvam and Tat. But the lakshartha is not that. So the self, the lakshartha is the self that illumines as Sakshi, the vritti and thoughts, that is the thoughts and everything. So, and the vachartha, the lakshartha of tatpada, lakshartha of tatpada is Brahman itself, the pure self, the pure consciousness. So now, here the lakshartha tvatvam asi, that is the total identity between the tat and tvam, that is vyashti jiva and samashti ishvara. So the identity between the two, that has to be shown. So this oneness and their essential nature, essential ID is indicated by this word asi. In Tattvam Asi, now we have discussed Tvam first, then Tat. Now the identity between the two is established by the word Asi. So now this one may find difficult to comprehend. Generally, when we are studying the scriptures, especially the Vedantic text, we already have some deep-rooted mental blocks. We have some notions or concepts about ourselves, about the world around us, about creation, about God, and things like that. And then whether it is correct or incorrect or partially correct and things like that, we do not know. So with these notions, then what happens is that when something we hear new, then it is difficult for us to accept it first, or we have so many doubts about that. It may go against our own notions or opinions that we may have formed about these things. It may go against that also. So that is why these are the things which prevents the knowledge, because of these doubts, because it clashes with our well-known opinion, well-known idea, whatever concepts we may have formed. So it is not easy to give those up. If it is deep-rooted, so it is not easy to give those up. It takes time. But one has to have an open mind and then understand it very clearly. Suppose somebody says that, okay, I think it is this way and I refuse to accept anything else. Nothing can be done about it. So therefore, one has to sit with an open mind. And many of our false notions, false concepts, false ideas and opinions, that properly it can be eliminated with proper reflection, contemplation, proper analysis, it can be eliminated and we come to the right conclusion. Now, having said that, in the 38th shloka, Adi Shankaracharya says, Sansargo va vishishto va vakyartho natra sammatah akhandaikara satvena Vakyartho vidusham matah. Now, how to logically arrive at the depth meaning of this simple looking statements of Veda is demonstrated in this particular verse, Shlok 38. Sansargah va vishishtah va vakyartha na atra sammatah akhand ekarasattvena vakyartah vidusham matah. So, Sansargah. Sansargah means meaning of the sentence brought about by the grammar and the common language. That is called as Sansarga. Sequence. Vakyartha one can say. So that is Sansarga. Or Vishishtaha va. Now Vishishta means by Vishishta, that is the Vakyartha Tat. He is the controller and Ishvara, and Tvam is the Jiva. This is the Vishishta. So the simple meaning by the common language and grammar, that is different, that is Sansarga. Now this is Vishishta is, okay, Vakyartha of Tat is Ishvara, Tvam is Jiva, and then the control. Ishvara is the controller, Jiva is the controlled, and so on. So this Sansarga and Vishishta, these two meanings, they are not accepted. Vakyartha na atra sammatah. Na atra sammata, these two meanings are not accepted. Then what is accepted? Akhand ekarasattvena vakyartah vidusham matah. So Vidusham, the wise, according to the wise also, the wise understand that there is a continuous, unbroken, akhanda ekarasattvena, continuous, akhanda continuous, ekarasena, unbroken, one, whole, unbroken, satvena. That is what is understood. There is oneness. There is bliss. So that is the identity. That is what is between the Tat and Tvam. So the real meaning is neither the Sansarga nor Vishishta, Jiva or Ishvara, anything like that. It is one non-dual reality, akhanda, unbroken, and is of the nature of bliss, infinite bliss. That only has to be understood. And there is no other meaning. So therefore, Sansarga and Vishishta meaning has not been accepted. And the wise accept it as Akhanda Ekarasa. Akhanda Ekarasa is nothing but that infinite bliss, unbroken. And is homogeneous. There are no divisions, there are no parts, nothing like that. Because anything that has got parts is subject to modification, is subject to limited by form. So that which is formless and infinite will have no parts or anything like that. And it is unbroken. Like the space is continuous, whether inside a pot or outside, it is the same, it is unbroken. Building the conditionings of the pot wall doesn't break or cut it or divide it. It is the same within and without. So therefore, akhanda ekarasa. Now having said that, this suggestive meaning acknowledged by the wise man who has experienced their own self is made vividly clear in the 39th shloka. What is that? Pratyak bodho ya abhati sodvayananda lakshanaha advayananda rupascha pratyak bodhaika lakshanaha. Pratyak bodha ya abhati sah advayananda lakshanaha advayananda rupah cha pratyak bodhaika lakshana. So now pratyak bodha, that is the consciousness within, ya abhati sah advayananda lakshana. So that is the lakshana of non-dual bliss, advayananda lakshana. And advayananda rupah cha pratyak bodhaika lakshana. So this, that consciousness that is within and the advayananda rupaha, they are both the same. They are the same, they are not different. So it is the individual consciousness that is not different from the total consciousness, the pure self. Now, expression of Advayananda through Tvam or Vyashti or Avidya and through Tat or Samashti or Ishvara or Maya, they are as Jiva and Ishvara. So Tvam, Vyashti, Avidya, then Tat, Samashti, Maya. So that is Jiva, indicating Jiva and Ishvara. So this explanation of this Advayananda. So Advayananda is the essence behind these two, Jiva and Ishvara, Tat and Tvam, Vyashti and Samashti, Avidya and Maya. This Advayananda is behind that. Now, due to the upadhi of avidya, so because of this ignorance, Jiva can have only bodha, but not ananda, because of this upadhi of avidya or ignorance. So we have consciousness that is a part of the pure self, but then infinite bliss is also the pure self. But we do not have that because of this avidya. That is, because of our own ignorance, we do not have that experience. So, due to this mind-intellect equipment, which is always agitated, restless, agitated and restless, and always keeps on projecting. Vikshepa is there. It is Vichalit, Aswastha, and Vikshepa is there. It keeps on projecting. It is never at rest. 1 minute it cannot rest. Something or the other goes on continuously in the mind. So the mind has to be quietened down. Many a times you see, we can catch ourselves talking to ourselves. Nobody is there. We are talking to ourselves. The mind keeps on chatting. I have to do this. I have to do that. I'll do this. And the other day he said something like that and this is that. So this mind keeps on talking. Now as a seeker, we have to be alert and watch whether this mind is keeping on chatting all the time. When nobody is around, we are all alone and this goes on. The chat goes on inside the mind. So can it be quietened down? So we have to quieten down or be a witness, at least be aware. Okay, now I'm chatting to myself and what not I'm saying. So at least that awareness has to be there. We do keep chatting a lot. So slowly we have to bring it down to quieten the mind. Because of this continuously being agitated, restless, and projecting all the time. So therefore, this mind cannot have the awareness of that bliss. Only consciousness is there. We become conscious of so many things, but we do not have that bliss. So it can express only as pratyak bodha, that is the consciousness within, and never as bliss, which is the nature of the self. So self is realized only when we transcend the upadhis, the conditioning of the body, the sense organs, the pranas, the mind, intellect. These are the conditioning. And within the mind and intellect, we have got so many conditionings, preconceived notions, concepts and ideas. And that also pulls us in different direction. So we need to transcend that. They have got their own limitations. Mind intellect equipment can help us on the spiritual part to a certain extent, not beyond that. Beyond that, because this intellect itself is a product of ignorance and therefore it has its own limitation. It cannot comprehend that which is infinite. So therefore, and it cannot comprehend that on whose power it operates. Like in the light of the torch, we can see all the objects in a dark room. But in the same light, we cannot see the battery cells on which the torch is operating. It is the same with the intellect. The intellect has got its limitation. We cannot comprehend the absolute truth through intellect. Therefore, in the samadhi state, we have to transcend the intellect itself. How do you know we have transcended the intellect? When we are in meditation, where there is no thought eruption and we have not gone to sleep also. In sleep also there are no thought eruption, but that is not meditation. So transcending this upadhi, so then this we can comprehend our essential nature as the pure bliss, pure self. So that immediate pure knowledge within, pure consciousness within is jiva. And ananda is that where there is no duality. Now here important thing is that ananda is there, advaya ananda. Ananda is that where there is no duality. Duality of what? Duality of aham idam. I and this. This is one duality. Duality of aham idam. Then duality of ahamta and mamata. I-ness and minus. I am there and then this is mine. Something is mine, something is not mine. I-ness and minus. So I and that, I and this, then I-ness and minus, I am there and mine, I and mine. And then this I-ness and minus, ahamta and mamata, that leads to another problem. That is asakti, apeksha, and possessiveness. That is attachment, expectation, and possessiveness. So these are the problems. First is ahamidam duality, then I-ness and minus, and these two leading to then attachment, expectation, and then possessiveness. So wherever there is attachment, there will be sorrow. The stronger the attachment, stronger the misery. And then of course, expectation. The more the expectation, more the sorrow and miseries will be there. And then possessiveness. We may have the objects, but we should not allow the objects to possess us. We should not be possessed by those objects. If they are there, we use it. And if they are not there, that's fine. That attachment is not there. We are not possessive about it, nor we are possessed by those objects. So that is where the ananda is there, where there is no duality. Aham idam, ahamta, mamata. And then this attachment, expectation, and possessiveness. These three also cause so much trouble to us, so much miseries and sorrows. So we have to get rid of that. Now, the rest of it will continue in our next session. Now, if there is any questions on the topic that we covered today, ask.
Any questions? Or should I start asking the questions, Swamiji?
Okay, go ahead.
Before I ask question, I must say, Swamiji, without Vakya Vritti, we would have been incomplete.
Yes.
Without Vakya Vritti, we would have been incomplete. What a wonderful explanation of Tat, Tvam, Tat, and the identity between the Tat and Tvam. Brilliant, Swamiji. This which you made a beginning in the last. I've written down this question last 3 days. It is playing on my mind. The question is like this. I was just comparing about the deep sleep and the sandhikal. So in the deep sleep, there are no objects, no thoughts. no karta bhokta bhavna. There is an ignorance. Na janami aham. Swamiji, can I be heard?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. And just now today you added there is a tamo guna there. Now in the Sandhikal, Swamiji, no objects, no thoughts. Sorry, in the deep sleep, then now in the Sandhikal, no objects, no thoughts. No karta bhokta bhavna. But there is no ignorance, but there is a awareness, I would say. And illuminator is of course present. Consciousness is always present there. If this is so, have I described these two Sandhikal as well as the deep sleep correctly, Swamiji? The characteristics? And if it is okay, then I would like to go to Sandhikal and Sahaj Samadhi.
Right.
In Sandhikal and Sahaj Samadhi, difference is only one. Sandhikal is temporary, whereas Sahaj Samadhi is permanent. Is my understanding correct, or you would like to explain, Swamiji?
The deep sleep state also, there are no thoughts and actually there is no awareness. Aham kimapi na janami. So I don't know anything. There is an ignorance, almost ignorance. Pradnya, almost ignorant. Though all these things are happening. In Sandhikala also, when we observe the gap, the space between two chanting, where no thoughts erupt. It may last for a second or two or a few seconds, depends upon how much practice we are doing to extend this Sandhikala. So in that also, but then the difference between the deep sleep and Sandhikala is we are in full awareness. We are fully conscious, whereas in deep sleep state, ignorance is there, where that is absent in the when we are observing the Sandhikala. So its extension is going into Samadhi, or because transcending the mind intellect equipment is going beyond the thoughts, beyond the projection, beyond the objects, which is the nature of this mind intellect equipment, to be aware of things or aware of thoughts and things like that. So that is going beyond that. And then if that Sandhikala is just for a few seconds or a minute maximum, or a minute or two or whatever, and then after that, then again it is broken by some thought or something like that. Then we again continue with that. It goes on like that. In Sahaja Samadhi, of course, Sahaja, that is spontaneous Samadhi. Like Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi used to be in spontaneous Sahaja Samadhi. 24/7, every moment he is to be in Samadhi. Whether somebody is present or absent or whatever it is, somebody is asking him questions, he may choose to answer, he may not answer, whatever it is, it all comes out spontaneously. Such a one, his actions are also spontaneous because that ego is anyway not there. So that is Sahaja Samadhi. Spontaneous everything and absolutely established in his own self, the pure self. So that is the difference. So from Sandhikala is just a glimpse, a minute glimpse, a very minute glimpse. But then we have to go beyond that, because that Sandhikala is barely for a few seconds, it may be, or maximum a minute or two. But then unless we realize the self, then be in the Sahaja Samadhi. Sahaja Samadhi, by the time we go into that, when this thought freeness is there, because ego, I, aham bhava, or I, the ego, that itself is a thought. Transcending the thought means dissolving the ego. Then there is no I thought also. So
in Sandhikal, there is in the Ramana Maharshi's words, it said Manolaya, whereas in the Sahaj Samadhi it is Manonash. Is it?
Yeah.
Then Swamiji, if it is so, then one cannot realize oneself at only in the sandhika state. Only one can realize, or in your words, the atma, aparoksha bodh. Only one can have when one transcends BMI.
Yeah, that is there. And therefore, one important factor you will see that no realized master has ever said that I have realized. Because who says that? Only the ego says that. And the ego is absent there. This is an important factor. So because the thought is not there, one has transcended the thought. So the thought is not there, and ego is a thought. And therefore, everything is spontaneous. So going beyond the sadhana of Sandhi Kala. But Sandhi Kala sadhana will help, no doubt, to a certain extent. But then going beyond that, that is the important factor.
Swamiji, then I'm not degrading anything, but meditation is the most important thing. All else is preparation or time pass.
No, but the thing is that to bring oneself to sit for that meditation, but meditation is not that when you sit separately for a few minutes, that is not meditation.
Anyway.
like Sahaja Samadhi is 24/7 every moment, this meditation also has to go on continuously. So like Samadhi is like that, meditation also, of course, you devote some time separately for meditation, maybe during the day or late night or early morning or whatever it is. Apart from that also, one can be in a meditative state during the day also, anytime. You see, so it is not for a specific time as such. And then that happens continuously. Once you are continuously contemplating on that, one is one with that, then one doesn't think of other things. Continuously, it is that only.
Therefore, so somewhere it is mentioned that open eye meditation.
Open eye meditation is also there. So it is throughout the day, you don't have to. Therefore, it is always said, no, spirituality is a 24 hours full-time job. It is not a part-time job. So whatever we may be doing in and through every activity, of course, we are present there, no doubt. Even living in the present moment at all times, that itself is a big sadhana. Right. Not going into past or the future, cutting out the past and cutting out the future. Just this practice of living in the present moment. That itself is a big sadhana. It is a very important sadhana, is a big sadhana, you see. So that practice is very important. That is why that is how we are restricting the mind. Mind doesn't want to stay in the present. It will always go into the past or the future. So it will not allow us to stay in the present. That is the swabhava. That is the swabhava of the mind. It doesn't want us to be in the present at all. It has to pull us into the past or into the future. Past, whatever happened, good or bad. Past regrets or future anxieties and things like that. So it will not keep us in the present moment.
So
if we are in the present,
to remain in the present state, to remain in present itself is a meditation, isn't it, Swamiji?
It is a meditation, and it is a very important and very big sadhana for a seeker to remain in the present moment at all times and not allowing the mind to wander into the past or the future.
Now, Swamiji, some lighter moments. We did the 35th shloka where the consciousness enters the name and the form, you know. So our Hemaben in a study circle always used to say that for his enjoyment, why he is troubling us? At his own will, he created names and forms.
But he himself is enjoying it or suffering, whatever it is.
Swamiji, but there is some weight in what she says, you know.
So here we have seen pravesha. Pravesha is in the form of reflection, abhasa. And then that is what it is. See, there is only one thin dividing line, and that ajnanta is there once, and that is all that is required to break that, go beyond that. And it can happen in a fraction of a moment anytime like that, because we are that Swarupa only. But because of that wailing, then we think that we are suffering.
Okay, thank you, Swamiji. Anybody else? Jayant is very much quiet, Swamiji. In our study circle at Padmasambhava, we were quite vocal, you know.
So maybe he has no doubts. He's comprehending it very well.
Because he has passed through all 5 books of Panchadashi.
15 chapters of Panchadashi took a while for us to complete.
Yeah.
Comprehensive one.
Who else? Vimalji?
So if there are no questions, shall we conclude?
Yeah, I think so, Swamiji.
Okay.
Any question? Raseshwari? Jyotiji?
No, thank you. I'll need to hear this class again to again, contemplate on it.
Yeah, okay.
It's very difficult to understand.
Yeah.
No, but it's really
Have to go
enjoying
through
it.
it again and again.
Yeah, it is very difficult, no doubt, because there are so many factors. As I said, one is that deep-rooted mental blocks are there. Then our own concepts and opinions or notions that we have formed, some sanskaras which we have brought from our past life, and certain things which we have understood maybe correctly or wrongly. And those are the obstacles that prevent us. But then continuous study and contemplation of this will help us to overcome that.
Is being in the present and surrender, is it the same thing?
Being in the present and surrender, yeah, well, in one way you can say, because surrender is an important factor of bhakti yoga. So when a bhakta surrenders, he is least bothered about his past or his future.
Yeah.
Isn't it? So he has surrendered at the feet of his Lord, and he is least bothered about what happened in the past or what will happen in the future. So everything,
he's just in the present.
So then he lives in the present alone. So in one way we can say that living in the present moment is absolute surrender. That also is possible. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Swamiji, we can conclude.
Okay then.
Yeah.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Harihi Om.